Hello. Today I'm going to analyze a video, which is a spoken word testimony, kind of a spoken word performance by a woman named Stephanie Levin or Levin. I'm not sure how she pronounces her last name. It's entitled "Sex, Pregnancy, and Abortion." So, in doing so, I'm going to treat this as kind of a free-form interview with the speaker, but also add some of my own thoughts, as I did in a previous video when I looked at Dr. Carl Jung's analysis on spirituality and addiction. So in a moment, I'm going to share the video and let it play and add some of my own commentary. But I want to reiterate some of the themes that were touched on before, which is the relationship between the relationship between things, as I said before, between eros and thanos, or between sex and death, between the thing that is meant to be good or has an intrinsic goodness, and the punishment for disobedience or disorder, which is death, when the thing that is good is not well ordered. I don't know if that makes sense. Human sexuality is incredibly powerful. I don't think we realize, most of us, just how powerful it is. It is a kind of magic. What do I mean by that? If I were to give a definition, my own definition of magic, magic is the manipulation or the invoking of preternatural forces for personal gain, for personal power, or for illicit insight. Okay. Human sexuality is even beyond that when we think about what it is and what it does. When it is well ordered, it is something that is a participation, or can be a participation in the divine. It is the way that God has ordained that human life, new human souls should come into the world. So the man and the woman joined in the covenant, the contract, the sacrament of marriage. They participate in the divine by bringing new life into the world. So I'm going to let this video play. I'm not going to speak any longer here at the introduction, but we want to keep some of those things in mind. What happens when human sexuality is, so to speak, off the rails, when it's disconnected from God, when it's disconnected from order, when it's disconnected from marriage, when it's disconnected from charity? So let me begin the video now.
I was mature enough to insist that my college boyfriend discuss birth control with me before I would agree to have intercourse. But I made one giant mistake.
I'll stop it there for a second. I've listened to this one time before. So I did listen to it to make sure it's worth it's worth me doing this, and it's worth my time, and it is. But the thing that struck me when she said this, I was mature enough, I'm paraphrasing here, but I was mature enough before having intercourse with my college boyfriend to discuss birth control. Already you have this, and Mrs. Stephanie Levin, out now, she's older, so she'll speak to this later. This takes place in the 1960s. When she's at college in the 1960s, you have this young woman who is already looking at human sexuality, sexual intercourse, as something mechanical. I'm going to discuss intercourse with my boyfriend in light of birth control. So you have these mechanisms. It's the mechanism of intercourse, and we have this other stopgap, which is birth control, which we add on to it to control the whole power of sexuality. I'm going to have a discussion with my boyfriend. This is human sexuality degraded, being degraded to something mechanistic.
I was 17 in my first year of college at the University of Minnesota and a virgin. After a dismal social life in high school, I had fallen in love.
If you want to go to heaven, it's just a joke, but you want to go, your social life in high school should probably be dismal. It should consist of talking to nice people and doing your homework and doing the dishes or something. You don't want a big social life in high school. Anyway, I'm speaking to the choir here.
For the first time with a junior. Because I was a virgin, I felt a little awkward and shy about going all the way. So I wasn't sure at first what would happen between me and my boyfriend. But he was very patient and willing to go at a slow pace. So I was willing to see what would happen. We both agreed that I would get a prescription for birth control pills, which at that long ago time still seemed like a miracle. I got my first month's worth. I hid them in my drawer in my dorm.
So again, just to reiterate, they've turned the sexual experience into something mechanistic. There already is there's no sign of the self-giving institution, which is natural but made supernatural, sacramental by Christ, the self-giving institution of marriage. That's not on the table. But they've made sex, human sexuality, mechanistic, and they're already working under a kind of pseudo contract. We'll discuss it. Well, you'll get on birth control. I'll take it slow with you. I'm understanding. You get on birth control. Okay, here's the deal. We'll check all the boxes, and then we'll engage in this interaction between our bodies. When you deal with human sexuality like this, that is all that is happening. Is an interaction between two human bodies. Okay, it's sexuality reduced to the action itself. Okay, it's very mechanistic, so keep that in mind. As we go forward, you can hear how her story unfolds, and it's aided by the fact that her tone is very even. There's not really any emotion. It's very mechanistic. I appreciate this testimony, and she's very frank with her experiences.
Where my roommate wouldn't see them. But before I had even started taking them, one night I was with my boyfriend, and I just suddenly had the feeling, it's time to let go of my virginity. And of course I knew that this very first time couldn't possibly result in pregnancy. So we went for it. After that, the next night, I started to take the birth control pills, as I would for many, many years afterwards. But as I was enjoying the feeling of being in love.
Okay, so here she's had her first sexual encounter with this man. She was a virgin. She had a feeling, a kind of infernal inspiration. It's time for me to surrender my virginity. And so she takes the pills that she's had hidden from her roommate. That's a sign of shame. That's actually her conscience telling her, if you're hiding something from people who love you or people who are close to you, it shows that you're engaging in something that is shameful, or at least is to use the language, pricking your conscience. You know you're doing something wrong. And so she's had her sexual encounter, and now she's enjoying the feeling of being in love. But again, associated between this man and this woman, or in the middle, I should say, of this man and this woman, are these pills. What's the bottom line here? There is no relationship of man and woman save for the pill. If it weren't for the pill, the foundation of their sexual relationship was built upon the understanding that she would take birth control pills.
Some other darker thought was nagging at my brain. Why hadn't I gotten my period yet? Oh, you're just late, I said to myself. Oh, your period's always been irregular.
And what you'll see here, and we'll get to the top, eventually you can see it in the title of the video, she has an abortion. She is pregnant at this point. After, from her story, it seems like maybe her first sexual experience with this man who had not long before that been a stranger to her and knew nothing about her and didn't really care about much to do with her except for her reproductive organs and her body, to put it in a crass way, and manipulated her, and she allowed herself to be manipulated. Perhaps she manipulated him, and they engaged in sexual encounter with the use of birth control. But what you can see here is now she has a question: why haven't I gotten my period? As a young lady in the flower of fertility, and already she's lying to herself. She's hiding herself from herself. She's alienated from her own femininity, from her own body. And what's done that to her? Contraception. Okay? She's taken the birth control pill to manipulate the ecology of her body. She's had a sexual experience with a man she's not married to, at which they discussed the ramifications of intercourse. And she's decided as a young woman that this is love. And now she hasn't received her period. She hasn't gotten her period. And you can see the association beginning to develop between Eros and Thanos, between sex and death. Okay. What is birth control? Birth control is a contract with death. Birth control, the pill or whatever means it is I want to engage with another person in the action that God has ordained is life-giving, but I don't want life. So I'll make a contract with death. So I want the pleasures or the fleshly union of the life-giving act, but I'll invite death into it so he can prevent, or I think in most cases, maybe, I hope so, allegedly, prevent conception. So when you use birth control, when you contracept, you've already made a contract with death. And so it's nothing but a hop, skip, and a jump to going all the way and making the sacrifice, not of yourself, which is charitable, but of the innocent, which is diabolical, the sacrifice of abortion. And again, Eros and Thanos, when it's not well ordered.
You know, some girls just skip periods altogether. But eventually, I had to admit, maybe I was pregnant. There were no home pregnancy tests then, so I went to a gynecologist. He confirmed my pregnancy and asked if I wanted to set up an appointment for a prenatal visit. I could hardly keep from crying as I left his office. Now, you have to bear in mind, this is 1964, 8 years before the Supreme Court legalized abortion in Roe versus Wade, and abortion was illegal everywhere in the country.
Okay, so now we've already gone over what she's done with this man who's anonymous. No. Again, where it just is maybe a separate topic, but where is the man sharing his side of the story? Who God knows what happened to him. I mean, this is something I don't even know her feelings about, but she doesn't really reveal about if just from this video, what she thinks now about the abortion that she had, about that whole encounter. But I do know she's on stage by herself and he's not there with her. And I do know that the child that they came together and through God's grace created was the one who had to die because of their imprudence, their foolishness, their selfishness. A woman finds out that she has done the greatest thing a human being can do, which has worked with, hand in hand, so to speak, with the creator of the universe to create new life, and that new life is within her. She is now the temple of a new soul and a new body. And she can't help but leave there and cry. And now she's begun to consider, I want an abortion, which at the time is illegal. So I've already done these immoral acts. Why not do it? Why not do another one? Why not break the law or find someone that can do this for me? And, not that long ago, Pope Francis made the comparison between people who perform abortion, between abortionists and hitmen. And I think it's an apt comparison. I really do. So let's keep this going.
I was terrified by the thought of having an illegal abortion. But I was even more terrified by the thought of having a baby. And my boyfriend agreed. I had no idea how to find the name of a safe abortion doctor.
So again, they've already, of course they agree, because they've already, by engaging in illicit sexual behavior, by choosing birth control, they've already begun to make the contract with death. And so, like I said, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to the abortionists. And of course, this man who's a junior in college, of course he agrees. For all she knows, he's done this before, and for all she knows, he's done this afterward. People that engage in this kind of behavior will often repeat it. So now she's on the look for a doctor that will perform an abortion.
But luckily, my boyfriend, who had gotten close with his family doctor back home, gave him a call and got a recommendation. Now, we were in Minneapolis, and this abortion doctor was in Pittsburgh. I don't know why. But I summoned up all my courage and called the number. His assistant made an appointment for me, told me to be there promptly at 9 o'clock on the Sunday morning of my appointment, and to bring $500 in cash.
Okay, so quickly again, I think it's ironic. Not to go too far afield, but she has to go from Minneapolis to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, especially at this time, the very Catholic city, both Roman Catholic and Eastern Catholic in Pittsburgh. Still is to a degree, but sadly, a lot of the parishes have been closed and combined. A lot of the churches are shut down. The very Catholic city, and she's going to be there at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Is it not fitting that this contract with death should end on the Lord's Day, at about the time when many of the faithful will be going to Mass and receiving the sacrament of the body and blood of the incarnate Lord for the sake of salvation and eternal life? And this young woman with her boyfriend, the young man, are traveling from Minneapolis to Pittsburgh, kind of a profane version of the Holy Family, Joseph and Mary and Jesus in her womb going to Bethlehem. Now it's anonymous junior college man and Stephanie with unnamed baby in her womb going to Pittsburgh on the Lord's Day. But instead of having a communion with divine life in the body and blood of the Logos, of the Son of God, the one who gives life, they're going to ratify their contract with death by piercing the flesh and spilling the blood of the unborn child that they came together to create. So what you have playing out here is a kind of diabolical anti-sacrament. And that is really what abortion is. Cold, hard truth. And as people that work with, work in the field of evangelization, or give pastoral care, we're catechists, or we're teachers, we're mothers and fathers, we're brothers and sisters, we're friends, etc. We have to be charitable, we have to be merciful, we have to be loving, and be willing to explain ourselves in terms that people can understand and that can change hearts. But let's make no mistake about it. There is nothing good about human abortion. And every human deserves to live. And no innocent child in the womb has done anything to deserve death. And again, you have this ratification coming from a disordered relationship with sex. You have this contract with death being fulfilled.
Now, $500 in 1964 money is almost $4,000 in today's money.
So she's got to scrape together the money to pay the hitman. $4,000, $500 then in the I think she said early 60s, mid 60s, $4,000 now. So got to travel to Pittsburgh to pay the hitman to kill the child. And that sounds stark, and we don't like to speak that way, but this is what's going on. And it's no mistake, even to this day, if you go to Planned Parenthood or other abortion mills, they want you to bring cash. They want cash transactions.
So you can see why I thought
You don't give your debit card to the hitman. I'll just say that.
this was a small fortune. But we borrowed from friends, and I took the money out of the bank in 5 $100 bills. When I put them in my purse, in an envelope, I felt like I was smuggling gold. We couldn't afford a flight to Pittsburgh, so we took the train. We hardly said a word the entire trip. When we got there, it was...
Again, this is not unique to her. I've heard this from many people, both in personal testimony and in testimony that I've read about, testimony that I've watched. This man and this woman who thought they were coming together to have a good experience, she was had this perverse inspiration. I need to lose my virginity. I need to give it up to this guy. I had bad social experience in high school, and now they're alienated from each other. She's already been alienated from her body by the birth control. They've already both, in their hearts, murdered the child in her womb. They're going to see this abortionist who will finish the deed for them, and now they can't even speak to each other. So explain to me the advantages of the sexual revolution. Explain to me the good of contraception. Explain to me the necessity and the good of abortion. There is none. These are the end results of the disordered and evil relationship with sex that leads to a hand-in-hand relationship with death.
It was early on a Sunday morning, and downtown Pittsburgh was deserted and silent. The one reassuring thing was that the doctor's office looked like a doctor's office. It had a leather, thing that you could lie on, and a sterilizer, and pictures up on the walls. And so the doctor said to my boyfriend, "Go and wait in the waiting room." I lay back on the bed and tried hard to think of nothing. I didn't know what the doctor was going to do. I didn't want to know what the doctor was going to do. I just wanted to get out of there.
This is a traumatic experience, in case you're not picking up. She's not showing a ton of emotion. You can hear a little bit in her voice. This woman experienced profound trauma at the hands of this doctor. Okay, she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't want to know what's going on. Again, this is the final result of her alienating herself from her body and her own sexuality, her own femininity, by engaging in intercourse with a man who's practically a stranger, and then by using birth control, which masks a woman's true femininity, her true cycle, hides herself from her body, separates body from soul, so to speak, in the relationship that they should have. And the end result now, she's in an abortionist's office. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't want to know what's going on. She doesn't even know who this man is. She's handed him a wad of cash, $500, which, as she said, is equivalent to now around $4,000. She's paid the hitman off. She just wants him to finish. And I don't want to make too big of a jump, but the language she's using is the language you often hear women use in relationship to rape. This feeling of helplessness, confusion, violation, and I just want it to be over. And I don't think there's a mistake with that. Again, Eros and Thanos.
Finally, at some point he said, "Okay, that's it." He stuffed cotton between my legs and sent me on my way. Thank you.
Okay. And that's it. The conclusion is, he said, "Okay, that's it." Stuffed cotton between her legs, and sent her on her way. And that was the end of her That was the end of her journey into sexuality with that man. That was the end of the disordered relationship to human sexuality. That was the end to this kind of perverse faith that people place in the birth control pill and in other forms of contraception. And in later videos, I would like to take a deeper look at contraception, because there is an intrinsic connection between contraception and abortion, between contraception and death. So that was the video, sex, pregnancy, and abortion. This has been my analysis. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.